Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg, and in this video I am going to get back to my John Kessel series, going through everything I can get my hands on by him. And I'm up to his third published story, which happens to be where I first came across John Kessel. It was published in the January 1979 issue of the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction, which was only the third issue of this magazine that I ever bought, and has, I think I've mentioned, it has this super beautiful Ron Wolotsky cover. But the illustration is for Christopher Priest's Paley Loitering, not John Kessel. So it's still, though, it is just a really cool painting, and was a huge influence over me when I was young. And so was Christopher Priest's story, Paley Loitering. That was my first Christopher Priest story, and it totally blew me away. The John Kessel story didn't blow me away so well. It was interesting. It was interesting because in 1979, there was a lot of talk in science fiction and space circles um, about Gerard K. O'Neill's The High Frontier, which I got to do a video on one of these days. I've got a nice copy of the book. And the High Frontier basically charted a realistic course into the future of utilizing space and making use of what's out in outer space, making use of what we could get from the moon. And most of what he talked about used existing technologies. Some of the technologies that didn't exist at that time do exist today. Others may still need to be developed, but definitely some others have still been in the development stages. But for the most part, it was a very realistic scientific and engineering piece. So, of course, science fiction writers picked up on that idea of these Lagrange points where we would build these space colonies, these huge cylindrical solar powered cities, complete with farmland and rivers and lakes and weather. They would have their own rainstorms and clouds, and it was a complete environment inside of a big tube. And a lot of science fiction writers took that up and wrote stories about it, and John Kessel was one of them with this story, Just Like a Cretin Dog. Cretin, I'm not sure. But this one is not so much about the space colony. This one happened. The colony referenced here is called Lagrange 1, and that refers to five stable points in the Earth's orbit where the orbit won't decay. They're called Lagrange points. There's five of them. And so Gerard O'Neill was proposing building a space colony at each one of those points to house a huge number of people and have people working in space. So this is Lagrange 1, but the story is about a series of murders. It's a murder mystery. And the murders are unfortunate accidents which tend to interfere with the future dreams of the people building Lagrange 1 because it's in the progress of building it. So we are not yet really into the best work of John Kessel. The best is yet to come. This is only story number 3. It's good, but it's not. I guess I'd only recommend it to you if you really are into John Kessel. Otherwise, it's just an okay story. It's not anything you should go out of your way to find. If you happen to run across this, pick it up for the artwork and the Christopher Priest story. And while you're at it, read the John Kessel. It's okay, but it's just okay. It was nothing exciting. It's already fading in memory, so it's not sticking with me. So, like I say, this was my very first John Kessel, and it did impress me back when I first read it in January '79. But I was young and dumb, and I think what impressed me about it was the fact that it was a story written around the space colonies. That is a really compelling um, science fictional device, are those space colonies, because if you read the whole book, The High Frontier, O'Neill does a lot with them and had a plan for taking humanity into a future in space that focused around his idea of these space colonies. And the artwork for them is absolutely beautiful. And that's really all there is to talk about with this book. Or with this story, I should say. It's a short story. It was topical in its day. I don't feel it has aged well. It's just an okay story today. Didn't get nominated for any awards or anything. And so I like I say, I would only really recommend it to somebody that is deeply into John Kessel and wants to read everything, because it hasn't even been collected a whole lot. As far as I know, the only place you can get it is to find a copy of this, which, I mean, I bought mine new. Um, and so have you read Just Like a Cretin Dog? Leave your comments if you have. And otherwise, come on back for more John Kessel. The next one I'll be covering is In an Alien Wood. And also come on back for all the other authors I'm covering. And until then, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button.